Would you rather be DP'd every day for a year?
Oh God.
Or change your stage name?
I would change my stage name today.
Yes, I love it. So you're all for thirst.
Yes,
but not for
the trap
traps. Not
part.
the traps.
Yeah, it's cringy. So you really have to advocate for yourself and do the things that you want to do and don't do the things you don't want to do. And if someone's not happy about that, then they're not the right person to be coaching you or managing you or whatever.
Hey, I'm Ariel Demure.
Hi, I'm Maddie Collins. Hey guys, I'm Maya Wolf.
Hi, I'm Little Puck.
I'm Bree Mills, and you're listening to the Adult Time Podcast.
All right, Jane Wilde. Welcome to the Adult Time Podcast, Jane Wilde.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited about this podcast and being here.
Good. Well, you know, on my list of people who I would want to have, I am so glad that you said yes to it, because obviously you're like OG Adult Time, been with us since the beginning, so many cool projects. Yeah, so we have to have you on.
Because when I first worked with you, I don't think Adult Time like existed in the form that it does now. It was just like a bunch of separate websites.
Yep.
So yeah, it was to see like what it started as versus what it's become and the types of projects that we've been able to do is like, it's really exciting. And it's only been like 5 years.
Yeah, we're in our 5th year. It's funny because it's the 5th anniversary this year for the platform, but there was a couple of years. I think I originally pitched the idea in 2017, believe it or not.
I wasn't in porn yet.
Not yet, but it was starting. But like you were there for the Girlsway days, Pure Taboo days, and then obviously the launch of Adult Time.
Yes.
So it's a long time overdue to have you on the pod.
And it's so funny because before we started filming this like 10 seconds ago, we were discussing how we always have these like long discussions on set whenever we work together. So it's like we're just doing that now, but there's just people are going to watch it and be like, oh, that's so interesting.
That, and we've got like cuddle buddies.
We've got our little mascot here.
We have our mascot. Yeah, well, and that's one thing I love about you is that every time we get together, there's always a really good conversation.
Thank you.
And so I want to dive into have like a good conversation today, catch up on what you've been doing, catch up on like, reminisce about some of like the cool projects that we've done, including some that are like going to come out pretty soon.
Yes, that hasn't come out yet. And also, of course, like what's to come in the future, because there's always so much to come that I'm so excited about.
Excellent. So yeah, we'll do that today, but I'm going to break the ice. I don't need to break the ice with you, but we're going to break the ice. The ice is well broken.
Yeah.
But this is a little fun game I like to do because you never know what's going to come out of it. And I'm very curious to hear what you have to say. Okay. Because one other thing I love about you, in addition to good conversations, is that you are always so like truthful and transparent. And you say what you feel, and thank goodness, because we need as many people like that as possible. So I want to know hot or not. We're going to do a little game of hot or not.
Let's do it.
So I'm going to randomly select. So Jane Wilde, posting thirst traps. Is that a hot or is that a not?
It's a not. And the reason it's a not is because the idea of a thirst trap, like the word trap being a part of that, implies that you're doing it for someone else. And I think that if you're going to post a sexy picture, it should be for yourself because you feel confident and because you want to, not so like, oh, I'm going to do this to get someone's attention and trap their mind.
I love it. So you're all for thirst.
Yes.
But not for traps.
Not the traps. Yeah, it's cringy.
All right, good. We should call this cringe or not.
Yeah.
So cringe or not. Okay, you're hooking up with somebody, and is foreplay like a hot, or like you just want to skip foreplay? Skipping foreplay, hot or not?
Well, foreplay is like part. I don't think it should be considered like a separate thing of like penetration, like because that implies that like penetration is sex, like the part where you're actually like having sex, and that but for some people, foreplay is the whole sexual experience, like for lesbians.
Yeah.
So, and I personally really enjoy that part, and I don't think it should be skipped. But also, I will say sometimes if you're really into it in the moment and you're passionate, you just want to like get right to it. So I wouldn't say cringe or not, hot or not. I think it's like a case by case basis.
Like lukewarm.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like you want to get right to it, and sometimes it's important to ease into it like that.
Is there like, with you, since I know that you like within your own sexuality are like very open and to all different types of partners, do you find that there's a particular dynamic that leans more towards like the skip versus one that you like to have the foreplay more?
Well, I will definitely say that it's not so much about the gender of the person, but the person themselves. Obviously, I'm going to say that it's more so like guys that want to skip the more passionate stuff in the beginning. But then I've also been with guys that are very into like pleasuring me, and I really love that, obviously. But with women, it's definitely like more passion, more slow, easing into it, really just taking the time to like enjoy every moment. And I really like that too. So, but I love that I like guys and girls and everyone, because it's just the nice variety to have both. Because sometimes you want both.
So in our line of in our world of entertainment, there's a fair amount of mommy and daddy talk in our scenes. Okay? So and disclaimer, from what I understand, you can have mommy talk and daddy talk in the like kind of like step connotation. And then you can also have it as sort of like terms of endearment, right? Like terms of respect or, you know, just role play. So mommy or daddy talk, hot or not?
For me, hot, because again, it depends on the person. If you give off mommy or daddy energy, which to me, it has nothing to do with like a family relationship or anything like that. It's more so like, if I feel taken care of, not just like in a sexual way, but when I'm with the person, if they are kind of like, you know, taking care of me, making me feel secure, making me feel attractive and wanted, that's very like daddy energy. And I get off on it. And I personally like older guys and women. So yeah, it's a hot for me.
Yeah. Dry humping. Hot or not? Jane Wilde, please weigh in.
Very hot. I love it. Like going back to that foreplay we were discussing, it's like you can get off so much before you even take your clothes off. And then when the clothes do come off, it's like, we're so excited. We're so ready. Like, let's get to it. But yeah, dry humping is a big yes for me.
A big. So you obviously have a big social platform. You have like a lot of followers. I don't know if your DMs are open or not, but when you get an unsolicited nude,
right?
Let's talk nude etiquette here, like for nudes.
Mostly I get the unsolicited ones on my OnlyFans, which I don't like it. I think it's like, just ask, because especially on OnlyFans, if you want to send it, like, I'm going to accept it. That is the place to do it. But when they just joined and then they feel so entitled, like as if, like, you don't, you know, maybe I do want to see it or maybe I don't, but you didn't ask. So you don't know. You're just like not caring. Like the consent isn't there. There was no ask and get the answer. So yeah, the etiquette is just ask beforehand. And if you feel like uncomfortable doing that, then maybe don't do it. Like maybe don't send it.
Yeah, maybe I'm old fashioned, but like I wouldn't send an unsolicited nude.
It's crazy to me because you know, people might not see it as a big deal, or they're just thinking with their dick in the moment and they're like, oh, that would be so hot if she's gonna look at it. But it's like, you're not thinking about it from my perspective. Maybe I wasn't in the proper headspace to consume,
to receive that,
to see that
photo,
and maybe I like to look at it when I'm horny, and I'm not horny right now. I'm going through something, or I just woke up, or whatever the case is. But like, it's perfectly fine if it's in like a consensual exchange, and then maybe sometimes I'll even send one back. But yeah, or if it's someone I know in my personal life, I don't want them to just send me it out of the blue either. Like, always just be like, oh, I think it'd be hot. Like, can I send you a pic right now? And I'll be like, yeah, daddy.
Yeah. Hey, there you go. Okay. So hot, solicited and accepted.
Yes,
nudes.
Exactly.
Pre-consented nudes, hot. Right. Unsolicited nudes.
Not hot.
Not hot at all.
Rude.
Do you do a lot of dick ratings?
Yeah, I do. That's like my big thing that
Can you walk us through like what's your kind of like approach to the dick rating?
So I have a method to the madness. Well, I do them in a couple different forms. I used to only do videos, and then I realized that sometimes, because the videos, they could take me like a couple days to do sometimes, but sometimes they want it in the moment. They're horny. So I'm like, I also do written ones where it's just like a nice little paragraph of my opinion. And then I also do audio notes where they just want to hear my sultry voice rating their dick. And how I do it is I like to describe the things that I like, what I saw, and they send me a picture or a video, whatever. And then at the end, I give them like an official rating out of 10. But because, I like to make it detailed and thorough. And obviously, when people want a dick rating, they usually want some type of like validation, which I'm happy to give. And I love dicks and I love a lot of things about them. So I'm happy to point those things out. And then there's always the couple people that like, they don't say it, but I know they want me to make fun of them or degrade them, and I'm happy to do that too. I'm like, your dick is small. Do you approach those, like, do you try to bring your sense of transparency to the dick ratings, or are you more like adjust based on what you know the person is hoping to get out of the experience? I definitely try to adjust it for what I think they want, because they are paying for it. So I want them to feel like they got their money's worth. But there's little clues usually that majority of people, I'd say like 9 out of 10 people want just like a regular good dick rating. And a lot of them are really nice dicks where I'm like, I couldn't even make fun of it if I wanted to. Like, it looks like a porn dick to me. Or it's bigger than a lot of the porn dicks I see. But then sometimes it's like, if it's like really, really tiny and they're like, ooh, I want to know your real opinion, like don't hold back. And then I'll be like, okay.
Yeah, like, it's like the small penis humiliation.
And I love doing that too. It's fun.
Do you ever look at, maybe this is just me looking at it with a filmmaker's eye, but if like my wife is doing a dick rating or something and I oversee it, it's always like the quality of the photo. Do you ever like the quality of the photo and like how messy the room is?
Oh my God, yeah. I'll comment on that too. Like sometimes it's not just about the dick, but I tell them like I'm rating the whole experience of looking at the photo and how it made me feel.
I love it.
And if you take a picture like above the toilet, then I'm going to tell you that that's disgusting. And I wish you hadn't done that. I wish you did it like in your bed or something. Yeah. And I wish, I didn't have to like look at your feet or whatever the case is.
Yeah, the toenails or like the super messy room.
Yeah, but most of the time it's actually very neat and demure. And I appreciate that a lot. And I point that out to them.
So also those who are going to send a dick pic, clean rooms.
Yes.
Hot.
Yeah.
Messy rooms or over the toilet and not.
Yeah, I have a messy room. So when I shoot content, I just don't show that part of it. Yeah. It's like, just be selective with, your crop.
Exactly. Know your frame. Know your frame.
Exactly.
Okay. How do you feel about public displays of affection? PDA, hot or not?
I don't care. I don't do it because I don't have a boo. But if I did and I was in love, I probably would not want to hold back in that way because of what other people think. And if you're one of those people that's like, that's disgusting, maybe it's more like an internal thing that you need to like reflect on why you think that's so bad that people are like showing their love in front of you. Like, how does that ruin your day? So yeah, hot, I guess, if I had to choose.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Certainly it's better to show more love in this world than
right. Not, to be fair, time and place. Like if there's like kids around and stuff, you don't need to be like tonguing each other down or being inappropriate. But I don't care about people holding hands or kissing and stuff. I think it's nice.
Final question for hot or not. This is going to be a good segue for us to talk about all the porn that we've shot and all the amazing things that you've done in your career. Watching porn when you are with a boo or with a special somebody, is that watching porn with your partner? Is that a hot thing, a not thing?
I think that it's hot. Depends, like, if you're both into it, I don't think you should do it if it's like to appease someone, or if you're like, our sex life sucks, like let's try watching porn. Like, no, I think it should be like we're both into it, we both want to do this and it gets us off. But what I think is hotter than watching just porn in general is if you make a sex tape together and then you watch that together. I think that's so hot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
So hot.
Look, honey, the first step towards realizing your dream might be building a family.
This is Grace, and she's gonna be able to take care of you no matter how sick you feel.
Where are you going?
I need to go shopping.
I already have everything prepared for you.
Hey, you can't drink that much caffeine. Honey, it's just not a good time. Okay, it's just not a good time.
Matthew, please.
It's just.
Matthew, just give me your hand. Give me your hand. Give it to me.
Get out of my way.
It's just fine.
Get out of my way.
What's her temperament like?
Worrying.
Not good.
I want you to make me mother.
Let's take some time to think about it.
I want you to make me mother.
What do you think?
I don't want you here anymore. I want you to make me a mother.
You're not supposed to be doing this. You know you're on bed rest.
I want you to make me a mother.
We're gonna have to make a decision and repair Neon.
I want you to make me a mother.
There you go, Mama. You're doing such a good job.
I want you to make me a mother.
Laura, you are fully dilated, all right? It is time for you to start pushing.
I want you to make me a mother.
I know how sacred motherhood is. You're bringing a baby into this world. Isn't that just so special?
All right, so I want to talk about kind of a little bit of a retrospective of your career, but I think the best way, as we were mentioning before we started this convo, we could talk about like how you got into the industry, but we beautifully encapsulated that in a movie we did together.
Right.
And can you believe it's 2 years
Been 2
since we did Stars?
It doesn't feel like 2 years, but at the same time, a lot's happened in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
But it also feels like no time has passed at all.
Same. So Stars, for those who don't know, is a 2022 biopic that Jane wrote and Jane and I directed together for Adult Time. And you won Best Actress
I won Best
for.
Actress at the XBIZ
Yes.
Awards, which was probably like the award that I'm most happy that I won because it was just it was a hard movie to film in a lot of ways. It was so much fun being with everyone, but it was also hard because it was so personal to me. So to be recognized for that of all the acting roles I've done, I was like, I'm really happy about that.
Yeah. So tell people about not just the experience making Stars, but like what was the inspiration for this story? Because that's a great way to kind of talk about, your journey into the industry and how you ended up using the medium itself and using adult to kind of like process that and manifest it.
Yeah. So when I was 18 years old, I found myself in a situation that I never thought I would be in. I never thought about sex work at any point in my life. I just never considered that was something that people do. And then when I was 18, I was going through some internal turmoil and I didn't want to go to college at that time. So I was trying to find a job that I could do from home because I didn't feel motivated to do like a normal job. And I somehow found myself within I don't know how to phrase it, within the claws of a manipulative person who for a year kind of brought me into the adult world in kind of more of like an outskirt section of it, not like the part that we're in now, which is very legit and very safe and comfortable. But it was a part that I was pretty much on my own, except for when he was controlling me. And a lot of bad stuff happened. But I also learned a lot about myself. And when I came out the other side of that, I was kind of had the mentality of like, well, I don't know what to do now. And I already am a sex worker. And because of his influence, I thought that you can't do anything beyond sex work once you've already like dipped your toe into it, you don't have any other options. So with that, and that's false. But with that information in mind, I had already kind of been interested in like filming my sexual experiences. And I didn't feel like at the time I had the proper resources to like do my own content. OnlyFans wasn't like a big thing at that time. So I was like, and I was on Twitter. So I already knew about all the big stars and I was kind of in that world online, but had never shot a scene, obviously. And I decided, well, that's what I want to do now. Like, I think I want to at least try it. Like, I quite literally have nothing to lose. It was a very sink or swim mentality. I said, I have to do something to be successful because, well, this past year was a huge failure and I have trauma. So I need to do something good with whatever happened. Like, it can't be a total bust. And it wasn't. It ended up being a really, being in porn, it's had its ups and downs, but it's completely changed my life. And it gave me the opportunity to be independent and be my own person. And I'm grateful for that. And then it was just making the movie was a very full circle moment. Like it's so hard to describe. And I think only if you make a movie about your own life. I kind of think about like, have you seen like the Baby Reindeer series?
Yes. Yep.
So what he went through, he wrote the series, he produced it, he starred in it. And it must have been such a bizarre experience, especially with something so insanely traumatic as being stalked and, assaulted and all those things, and just reliving it for entertainment purposes. Because at the end of the day, we're making a movie for people to watch and enjoy, but it's some of the worst stuff I've been through is being depicted.
Yeah. So, and I want to talk about that because, I mean, obviously we've connected over the years, like over the kind of shared interest in like kind of using art to process stuff. And that's what we did with Stars. But like, what led you to want to take the experience and, fictionalize it and bring it to life as a movie? What led you to hit me up that sort of fateful day in early 2022?
Well, there had already been, you had already been doing a lot of model collaborations, specifically on Pure Taboo, because Pure Taboo is really like the only site where you can kind of depict, like, dare I say, like traumatic situations that can turn out to be kind of like empowering, or can be flipped on its head and empower the person that you thought was the victim in the situation. So I had been thinking about, and I specifically saw a Lena Paul collaboration where it was, it was a situation that wasn't necessarily positive, but then it ended up being like she was able to turn it into art and into something that she could be proud of and feel empowered by. So I was starting to think like maybe I want to do, like a featurette, like a smaller, just a scene. And I had that whole idea. I wrote it out, and it was just one scene of what ended up being Stars. And then I thought about it and I said, no, if we're going to do it, I think it deserves to be told in its entirety so people can have the true full story. And also at the end of that one scene, I had changed the ending to where it ended up where nothing bad happened to me in the end. And I decided not to go that route. And I said, no, I don't want to do that because it doesn't feel true. It doesn't feel right. And I would rather be honest and share my real experience. It just feels better that way. And that would be more empowering than like creating a fake narrative for me. So, and then I said, well, if anyone's going to be into the idea, it would be Bree, like, because you've been very open to my ideas in the past, and we've, I've written stuff in the past, and yeah, there was zero hesitation. You were completely open to it. And I was like, oh, this could actually happen. Like, that's crazy.
Well, it's funny because I wasn't planning to do a movie project
that year. Yeah.
No, yeah. Like, because was kind of taking a down year from that. But like you said, we've always really enjoyed collaborating with people within the community who have stories to tell. And myself, I mean, I totally use my movies, not all of them, but the ones that are like usually, the most kind of like dramatic are usually because there's something behind that I'm personally processing. And I find that that's the greatest form of therapy for me is being able to take a situation and in my case, I do kind of twist it a little bit, like make it its own piece, but I know what's really going on behind it. Yeah. And it allows me to kind of most often hold a mirror to myself, you know, to reflect on something that I'm reflecting on, right? So I've done that with Teenage Lesbian and Perspective and with Birth that's just about to come out. Like that's all those are all my skeletons in my closets, just like on the screen. But I love, for me, that's like, it's such a way to process. Yeah. So I know that when you approached me, like, you told me your story, I knew like that was something that was going to be really critical for you to help you process. But also it shows a story about the journey into sex work that is a very objective story that, like you said, ultimately led to a lot of empowerment and growth and getting you to where you are now. But it was not all pretty and it doesn't end up wrapped up in a pretty bow. And it's real.
Doesn't. It's a real story. It's a slice of life. And, you know, with the reactions to the film, there was a lot of polarizing different reactions, which I was so pleased with, that a lot of people, you know, got it in the way that we intended. But then there was a lot of people that didn't really get it, or they thought that we were trying to send a certain type of like subliminal message about porn or about camming or the industry. And I was like, that wasn't the intention at all. I wasn't trying to, you know, be black and white about it and say, well, webcamming is bad and porn was great and webcamming was horrible for me and porn was perfect. Like, it, you know, just because people know about everything I was able to accomplish after that happened, after my very first scene, doesn't mean that that was supposed to be taken into account within the context of the story. The story ends after the first scene where, and this really happened, I looked in the mirror and I was like, oh my God, that was so much fun, first of all. And second of all, I feel like I was good at that. It's something where maybe for the first time ever, where I actually feel like, oh my God, I can do something that I'm good at, that I enjoy. I can make a life for myself and I can break free from the prisoner that I was. And I can be a free, independent sex worker in a positive way. Yeah. So the fact that, you know, some people got it and some people didn't, but I was just happy that there was a lot of emotional reactions and there was a lot of people that were like, I've never seen something like this before. Please make more stuff like this adult time. And I thought that was fantastic. I like to think with my projects, like you can love them or hate them, but you'll never forget them. Yeah. Like that's always kind of my goal. And I feel like Stars was that for people. I feel honored that Stars could even be considered in the same category as like a movie like Teenage Lesbian, because when I saw that, I think it came out in 2020. Yeah. And I had never seen anything like that before in my life. I mean, the scene with Kristen Scott and Adria Fox in the bed, I've never seen anything in porn like that. And I've never seen anything since then like that. And I think that that is just so fantastic and unique that things like that can be made. It's a real, like in Boogie Nights when he's like, it's a real film, Jack. Yeah. And somebody commented that on Stars and I was like, wow. Like, yeah, you're like, yes, so awesome. Yeah, that's exciting. Well, it's cool too, because that group of people that we made the movie with, or like, particularly Michael and Susie, you know, that was quite early on in their producing career as well. We had only been working with them in that capacity for, you know, maybe a year at that point. I think it was one of their first like large scale projects. So we were all kind of coming together, you know, to make that movie at a kind of a pivotal time for all of us. Yeah. So it was I know that they always talk about Stars as being like a real moment of pride, because it was sort of like, yeah, it's a real movie, Jack. Like even, you know, we could make a movie like this. And it could not have been done without either of them, not just because of their talent. Like obviously Michael is one of the most talented cinematographers. He's only gotten better, but just like the people that they are, their support, like everyone on set was extremely supportive and understanding of the fact that it was challenging for me to conjure up these memories and being the historian, the only person that lived the experience, to have to like really dig deep and give these like intimate details of, you know, having someone scream in my face and reliving that experience. And everyone was just so like, I could not imagine have done it without them. Like truly, it was therapeutic, but also it was hard.
Yeah. Well, two things that came out of that experience as well that have since influenced me in the work that I've done. You were very inspired by Sean Baker.
Yes, love
the
him.
filmmaker Sean Baker, and the real, the kind of real world approach to the way he makes his films, right? And I know you were like, this is a no makeup. This is you know, we're keeping this as real, as raw as possible. We released it as a single feature.
Yes, which I think was the best thing we could have done, because it really, like, it forced you to watch the whole thing at once, which it's not about scenes. It's not about the sex scene. Like, oh, I'm going to get through 10 minutes of acting so I can watch a 30-minute sex scene. But you're like, no, that's not how we want to do this film.
Well, and that was the big thing, was the fact that you very consciously wanted to make, like, you know, a film, a feature length film that had sex in it, but it wasn't going to be set up sex scene, that we were going to weave sex kind of to serve the story. And that, I think, would have been the first time we really did that in a project. And let me tell you, Jane,
it's important.
Well, and since then, like pretty much all of the, not every project, but any project where I can, I do that, because it's, you know, let's say Birth that's about to drop, X-rated, it's a 2-hour movie, about 40 minutes of sex within that, but like sex all through the movie.
That's not very much compared to what features used to be. It's like the sex scenes, because at the end of the day, it's porn and people, they want to watch sex. But I think if somebody wants to watch a full sex scene with only a little bit of acting that may or may not be important to the sex scene, like there's thousands of scenes on adult time that they can watch. But if you truly want to watch like somebody's artistic expression, and the sex will be there, but it's not necessarily going to be the way that you're used to seeing it. I think that there's an important place for that as well.
Well, and I think it's about time that we challenge that too, because there's these sort of unwritten rules that, like, you know, a scene has to be X amount of minutes long and this much
these
must
positions.
be these position, this much, you know, people want a 40-minute sex scene. And sometimes, maybe. But in, like you said, if you're going to sit down to a 2-hour movie, you want to be like, you want to kind of feel aroused or get off throughout it. But you can do that with having like a 5-minute little, and then a bit of story, and then another something, and then a 10-minute something. Like, it doesn't have to all be like separated.
Right.
And that was with Stars, that was definitely one of the things you wanted to do. That would have been the first time we did that. That has had a lasting impression since. And not just for myself as a filmmaker, but let's say Isaiah Maxwell, who just put out a pilot episode on Adult Time of a project that he's doing within his ambassadorship. It's a episode where, in the context of a scene, again, about a 45-minute scene, it's not one sex scene, it's like little sex moments throughout. So again, sort of like it's something that now, because of having a project like Stars, it's sort of given us the ammo to try it even further. So you could just give yourself you can give Timmy a little pat there.
I'm excited about that, because I think it's something that people wanted even before. I mean, obviously I'm one of the people that wanted it, which is where the inspiration for that came from, because it's not all about sex all the time, even though it is porn. It's like, we're actors here, and we want to make a movie that is not just getting people off, but that they genuinely are enjoying watching.
Yeah. Well, we get to make the movies that mainstream can't make, because we get to include the sex scenes, you know? So,
exactly.
I know that when you obviously wrote Stars and really, you know, I was there to kind of help you format, but you wrote it. I mean, it's not, it definitely was your piece. Tell me about your experience directing for the first time, which I know is a little bit unique in this case, but
because I didn't know that I was directing, even though I was, because I was contributing a lot. I had specific shots in mind, or specific ways that I wanted it to come across or to look, and I didn't realize that was directing.
That was my evil plan.
Yes, and then at the end of the film, you were like, you were the co-director. I want you to be credited as such. And I was like, really? Like, I feel like I was just, I was just doing my part because there was certain responsibilities that I had because it was my story that we were telling. So I said, well, if I want it to be a certain way, I have to speak up and make sure that it is that way. I can't, you can't let other people do everything. And then if I wasn't happy with something, I would only be able to blame myself because it's like, well, I didn't advocate for that. I wanted this specific shot involved or I wanted it this way. So that was kind of the first time that I had any type of creative control on a project where I was like, well, I wanted this to be included and I want that. And it did inspire me. I definitely felt intimidated doing it because it was a big production and obviously working with you and you've been directing for so long. But and then afterwards I was like, I don't know if I want to do it again because it was that project in particular was just a lot in general. But now in the year of 2024, I think that I definitely feel inspired that I want to create films. I have ideas and I want to execute them and in a way that I'm excited about. Mm-hmm. So I definitely want to get back into directing / really get into it for the first time in a way that is like maybe bringing other people's visions to life in that way and learning how to do that because I've never done that before. Mm-hmm. It's easier to direct something that you wrote and that you're starring in because you don't have to like direct yourself. You just do your idea.
Yeah. But, I knew in that case, I knew that it was, I knew that if I had said to you in the beginning, okay, well, we'll do this together and co-directed, that might have even scared you off, right? It would have been a lot of added pressure.
Yeah, definitely.
And I also knowing you knew that, without that pressure, you would feel confident to say, hey, I have this idea, or hey, this is how I wanted. So that's why, in my mind, I'm like, we're just going to do the thing.
Yeah.
And then at the end, I'm going to let her know she did the thing.
Yeah. And that was the best way to do it because just knowing that I had the freedom to speak up, but not having this like very intense label of like, because the director is, in my opinion, like the most important person on set. You're running the show. You're making sure everybody in their role knows what to do and how they're supposed to do it. I would have felt intimidated, especially with people that the lovely crew who's been doing this for so many years, more years than I've even been in the industry. So it would have been intimidating to be like, oh my God, I'm directing you. Like that feels weird, but it just came natural. It felt like a collaboration as opposed to directing. But then I was happy that it ended up being directing.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Well, it gave it like you said, it helped plant a seed for over the last year. So I know that we did stars, and then you took a pretty significant break from professional shoots.
Yeah, this year.
And maybe walk us through a little bit about your reasoning behind that, and how you navigated that time off from the professional sphere.
He left a week ago.
Remember to call me.
I'm really lonely. And there are days where the only other voice I hear is my echo. Yes, Christine, I'm familiar with AI. I don't live under a rock. Oh my God. I thought you were Daryl. It's so real.
I'm not your stepson. I'm an AI companion. I have plenty of suggestions to help you explore intimacy safely and privately.
This is a lot to take in.
Would you like me to call you mom like he does?
I didn't realize how much I'd missed it.
You got it, Mom. Mom? Mom? Are you down here?
So this year, I've probably only done like 4 or 5 shoots in the last 9 months, however long. And there was a couple of reasons for that, but I had to go on Accutane, which is a very intense
my siblings
medication.
Went on it. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, my skin was really struggling, and I just wasn't really in a good place mentally where I wanted to like have these long days on set and have people touching my face and skin and just feeling very self-conscious. Like there's certain things that can't be hidden with makeup. So there was that. That was the number one reason. I was like, I'm going to be on it for 9 months.
Yep.
And I just wanted to have the freedom to like stay the fuck home and not have to like go to set if I don't want to. And then there was also, so this year was my 6th year shooting. And I've never really taken like a significant break except when we had the COVID lockdown, which wasn't by choice. And I got back to it as soon as we were allowed to, like within 3 months. And the reason is because I love shooting and I've always loved being on set and shooting and the people I've gotten to work with. But like, so, you know, from Stars, I went directly from a traumatizing situation, honestly, like a life-defining situation, immediately within a couple months, straight into the industry, full-time, and becoming a star and becoming a star. And becoming Jane Wilde, the person that everybody wants me to be or thinks I am, this incredibly sexual, hypersexual, naughty, slutty person, which it's fun to embody that, of course, when I'm at work. But the older I've gotten, and I kind of started feeling like this right around when we were filming Stars, bringing back all of that, those feelings from that time, and that I didn't have like a normal adult awakening. Like a lot of people when they're like 18, 19, they go to college, they're figuring out like who they are as a person, what they want to do, what their interests are. And I never really had that opportunity because it was always just about porn and being successful in porn and what projects can I do in porn. And so I took this year, I took the opportunity that I had from saying I'm going to take time off to kind of figure out other things that I'm interested in, other things I want to pursue that aren't just porn, or even things within porn that are not just about being like a hypersexual slut all the time. And it's been great. It's been really great. And I feel like I took my time and I have like a renewed appreciation for the industry as well. And I feel ready to start shooting more regularly again, but not ever in the way that I used to, where I always felt this pressure, like if I turn down this, there was always just this irrational fear and pressure of like, if I turn down this shoot, well, that could have been the shoot that, you know, would change everything. And it's never really that simple. Nothing ever changes everything. Not one shoot is going to do that. It's the accumulation of hard work and people seeing the dedication over the years. So I've done that. I'm there and it feels great. And I do want to keep going with it, but I want to do it in my way that I feel more comfortable with. And I'm going to be 26 in like 4 days.
Happy early birthday.
Thank you. And yeah, it just feels so crazy because I started all this at 19, which is completely different from 26 in so many ways.
Yeah.
And I really feel like an adult now. Like obviously I was one then, but you still feel kind of kiddish in a way.
Well, and you know, they're young adult for a reason. I mean, there's still a lot of development that happens throughout your 20s, and girl, it's going to keep happening.
Yeah. And I'm ready for it. And now I feel more ready for it because I feel like the frontal cord, whatever it's called, it's there. It's ready.
Developed. Your frontal, what is it, cortex is now fully developed. Yeah.
So now I can kind of look at my experiences and everything objectively. And I can say, well, there's definitely some shoots that I did that I didn't want to do, or that I'm like, oh, I wish I didn't do that. And then there's some projects that I'm like, I want to do more stuff like that. I feel so, even if it was like 4 or 5 years ago, I'm like, oh my God, the fact that I got to do that is like one of the coolest things ever. And yeah, I want to do more stuff like that and just go on that trajectory as opposed to just kind of continuing to be like up and down in my feelings about it, because I'm like feeling like, oh, I have to do stuff that I don't necessarily care to do because it'll be good for my career, and no more of that. It's only going to be about enjoying myself and having fun, because that's when the good stuff comes, is when I'm enjoying myself.
I think it's funny, like just listening to the way that you explained it. Probably because of the nature of our industry where, everybody is sort of in it independently, and the whole idea of like, yo, you're only as good as your last gig. And like you said, like, what if that thing I turned down was the thing that catapults me to XYZ? There's this sort of like inherent like sense of that you always have to have this drive, but there's never really a moment of appreciation that comes, right? Like when you're so driven to just do more and more and more, you don't tend to take the time to look at what you've accomplished.
Yeah.
I can certainly relate to that, like in my own life and career where, there's always a feeling of, yeah, I did that, but what's next? And sometimes you need to stop and say like, wow, like look at what I did, and get a gratitude for where you're at. And, you certainly that 6-year grind or like the first 5-year grind is something that you don't need to go back and grind like that anymore. It's a different grind now. It's a different level, and having the appreciation for what you've accomplished without feeling like you need to like keep yourself in that, kind of in that cycle. That's an important part of like maturity and learning for sure.
Yeah. And I think it kind of, I don't want to say everyone, but a lot of people definitely, they leave the industry, and then when they end up coming back, they're like, I'm going to be doing things differently now. And I just have a different perspective and a different view on shooting and just like doing it for different reasons. Because like when I first got in, I had this like very like intense sink or swim mentality. Like I cannot fail.
Yeah.
Whatever failure even means, it's so subjective. But to me, it meant like, I wanted to be famous. I wanted to be a big star, which honestly nowadays that type of star doesn't even exist anymore because OnlyFans is a thing, which every day I'm so grateful that it is, because it gives a lot more ability for people to run their own shit and their own lives and their career. But there used to be a type of porn star that was just, you couldn't watch porn without seeing them everywhere. And I always wanted that for myself. And I definitely think I have reached a level that I'm content with and I'm happy with. And I try not to even think about like that original idea, because that was the idea of someone that had no experience and no real idea or perspective about what this industry is and what you can do. And I think it's a very outdated idea in that you can just go for so many years and never need a break and never need to like take perspective or time for yourself. And it's all about what the fans want. Like, no, it's not. It's about what I want actually. And I'm going to do what I want. And the fans that will love that will. And if they don't, then they're not my fan. And that's fine. You don't have to be. I don't need you.
What advice would you give for performers who are up and coming now based on what you have learned?
Only do things that you want to do. And if you're not sure if you want to do it, then don't do it until you're sure. Because there's no point in doing something that you can't be proud of. And it's like, yes, you can be proud of how something comes out, how it looks. And if people are happy about it, then I guess it feels good. But it doesn't feel as good as knowing that you felt empowered while you were doing it, and that you feel empowered after the fact as well. It's like, it's just not as good. It's not good. So do things you want to do, and also don't let anyone tell you that you have to do it this way or you shouldn't do that. It's your fucking career. It's your life. There's people that are lifers in this industry in that they've been here 20, 30, 40 years, however long, and people can become very cynical. And it's almost like they don't view new talent coming in as human beings in a way. And they just view you as like a number or a way to make more money. So you really have to advocate for yourself and do the things that you want to do, and don't do the things you don't want to do. And if someone's not happy about that, then they're not the right person to be coaching you or managing you or whatever. That's that.
You mentioned that coming back into shooting again, you have your mindset on some things that you want to do.
Yeah.
Can you tease out some of those?
Well, there's certain types of scenes that I haven't done. Not a lot, but there's one specific type of scene that I have been thinking about that involves a plethora of people.
I saw your hands.
Yeah. So we'll see if that ends up happening. But I, in the past, I would have been like, oh, I need to do this for the fans. I need to do this so I can win the award and win Performer of the Year. Now I'm just like, I will do it because I think it would be fun and it would be exciting. And if I can't do it in a way that is those things, then I just won't do it and I'll feel fine about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I also want to start getting back, well, not even back, because I only did one directing project a couple of years ago, but I want to be getting into directing for the first time and learning about it. And I have had the opportunity to shadow some directors, some adult time directors, and just kind of looking at it from a different perspective, because I've seen people direct like hundreds of times at this point, but always thinking about, being talent, what am I going to do in front of the camera, and not really watching from their perspective of like, well, how is the camera operated? How do you come up with the different shots? How do you talk to talent and articulate your vision? So those things, I want to start working on that like probably next year and hopefully get some opportunities to articulate my vision. And yeah, I have some, there's certain companies I'd like to work with that I haven't yet, but it's not as important to me. Those two things are exciting.
What have you learned from being on the other side and shadowing sets? Like, what are a couple of like the things that surprised you that you hadn't necessarily taken into account before?
Well, it's a lot more difficult. Not that I thought it was easy, but it is a lot more difficult. There's a lot of different components that go into it. And I will say, especially for an adult time director, they're very conscious of not just like creating a good product, but making it a pleasant experience for everyone, the crew and the talent and everyone on set, and making it be every part of it is extremely consensual and empowering and enjoyable. Of course, I learned something recently that in life, there's always going to be things that are uncomfortable, and you can't always hide behind comfort. You have to embrace that. So I definitely think that I've never had an experience where I was like hurt or in pain on an adult time set. There's been uncomfortable, like when we're on set for 12 plus hours and I'm like, oh, I'm so fucking tired right now. But at the end of the day, it's like, I always feel very empowered at the end of those days, because I'm like, I was respected, I was listened to, and we made something amazing that I'm proud of. So yeah, just like managing everything. You have so many hats as a director, and you kind of have to do a little bit of everything, and it's not easy at all.
You definitely have to be ready to pivot at any moment. I would say, like, if I could give like any advice, but that only comes from experience. Like, it just comes from doing it. And it certainly took me like a long time to get there, is like just being ready. You go into a day and you think you have a plan. Yeah. And that plan may very likely change. But if it does, it's kind of meant to be, and you go with it. And again, you just make sure that like everybody's moving in the same direction and that we all walk away proud. That's always the goal.
You have to go with the flow, I think.
You sometimes, and just be ready to deal with sometimes really out of left field situations that become your immediate responsibility, and you're the one that's gotta drive them. So I know you did self-produce your own showcase, right? So you did a showcase called Jane Wilde is Agape.
Yes, I was.
Tell us about the experience of self-producing that, because it was, a pretty big milestone for you at the time that you created it.
So that was my second showcase that I had done, and it was a collaboration between me and Johnny Darko, who he's been one of my favorite directors to work with, because he really, adult time is more like my demure acting side of me. But with him, it's like I really embraced just this wild, fun craziness that porn can be, and pushing the envelope and the boundary and figuring out what are my boundaries. Because I was 19 when I got in. I didn't know. I never did a DP. Like, I don't know what all my boundaries are. So I want to figure them out in a safe environment. And this was like, it was a couple months into the pandemic, and we had just gotten back to shooting, And I was like, I want to do some scenes. Like, you know, we have this person's in town. Let's do this type of scene. I think it would be really cool. And so it ended up being a collaboration where we co-own the scenes together, and they live on my OnlyFans as well.
Yes.
And yeah, it was just great because my first showcase was more just about like kind of showing off. And I did a lot of like things for the first time. So that one was more like, ooh, I want attention, which is fine, is great. But I don't know, the second one was more just like my appreciation for the industry, because after taking a 3-month non-consensual break where we were not allowed to shoot, it was a big no-no. And then coming back, I was just so ready. I was so excited, and you can really tell in all of those scenes, the passion was there, the energy was there, and it was great. It was fantastic. And that was 4 years ago. It doesn't feel like it's been that long, but it has. And Johnny is a fantastic director. I love working with him. He brings great stuff out of me. But I think if I ever do another project like that, I would love to co-direct as well, and really have a little more say on like certain angles or certain talent. And yeah, I had some control, but at the end of the day, he was the final say.
Yeah.
Which I get.
Yeah.
And I appreciated, because he's great and he did so many iconic showcases that I loved. But yeah, I think I would be excited to self-direct as well as produce my own thing.
I often think about, because showcases like in porn, especially when it comes to kind of like awards categories, there's two sides of the coin. There's like the narrative stuff, like the movies and the acting, and even the best sex scenes are often associated to projects in features. And then there's the all sex categories, which are usually driven by the showcases. Yeah. And we've never really dipped our toes too much in that side. And it's certainly something that we've been thinking about, or we've thought about. But I always kind of fall back on that. I wouldn't want to do the same old formula, right? Which is, you know, a bunch of quote unquote firsts, and, you know, it being done, you know, a white leather couch and the neon fishnets or whatever. What would you like? What do you think? Do you have any ideas on how to shake up the sort of showcase formula? What do you think would be really interesting within that kind of content?
Well, it's hard, because what I think would be interesting is adding a narrative, but then it becomes a feature film, which I definitely think I prefer feature films. But I think definitely changing up the locations, special effects, like, you know, just experimenting with different things, not necessarily doing the same, like white couch, white background. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I think there's certain categories or genres, I could say, that they've kind of reached their threshold, and you need to almost like evolve and create a new category, or like a hybrid within, like, I think there's some companies that are doing really cool things where it is a showcase, because the talent, you know, the star, they're in every scene, they're doing big firsts, or they're doing exciting, cool stuff. But then there's also the ability to show off their acting and that type of stuff as well. So I think that that's the future. I don't think that type of showcase is necessarily like what people even want that much anymore. Maybe I'm wrong, or speak for myself, but I think that stuff with acting is really fucking cool. And even if it's just a little bit of acting compared to a lot of explosive sex scenes, I think that acting is great, and we should give more opportunities to act, because people love it. It's fun. There's so many talented actors in the industry, and also the showcases, like the sex scenes, you're acting because it's explosive as possible. It's like in my personal life, I'm not like screaming and doing a double anal, but in the showcase scene, it's like a different animal. So that kind of thing.
With that being said, in terms of like big scenes, we can't wrap up our interview without talking about a really cool project that we worked on that is going to come out. Probably will have come out by the time this airs, but not too long before. And that was Girlsway's Come Out to Play Warriors parody.
Warriors official parody.
Official parody.
It's time to play.
Today, I have a breaking news scoop for you, and it is an all-girl showdown going down. On one hand, we have the Cougar Queens of Chaos, led by the fierce and the fearless Raven.
Ho down, throw down!
And on the other hand, we have the Mothers of Mantis, commanded by the bold and the brilliant Blaze.
All right, bitches, you know what to do.
These badass bims are ready to throw down and show the city what they're made of. So queens, mothers, I challenge you to strap on your gear and head over to that whorehouse. It's time for you to come out and play.
Fucking lesbians.
Hey, why don't you guys show this city that you can slay together?
That is so cool. I'm so excited that and that's one of the few scenes that I did this year. And as I mentioned before the podcast, one of the things that kind of inspired me to want to come back in a bigger capacity and shoot more often, because it was just so fun, like being on set with everyone, all the girlies. I love women.
It was evident.
Yeah, and it was just so fun. It was so creative. The costumes were amazing, and your vision was just, I think it was executed excellently.
It was a well-run day by the whole team. By the whole team.
It was great.
Yeah.
I'm excited for people to watch it. So if you haven't watched it, then this is your sign to, after this podcast is over, of course, go click on that instead. But yeah, it was just so cool. And it was my first time working with some of the women in the scene, and everyone was so great. Like, I was a little nervous just because it's always a little nerve-wracking doing like a big production, and especially with so many big personalities, people I hadn't worked with, there's a little nerves there, but it went great, I think.
I mean, same for me, right? Like it was a big group. It was the largest orgy scene that I've ever directed by like a number of bodies.
Yeah.
And obviously it was like an ambitious day, but we came together, we pulled it off. When I called cut, you all could have easily kept going.
We were like, wait, what?
Yeah, you're like, no, we want to keep, and it actually did keep going a little bit. Like, there was like a full squirting sequence that happened after we trailed off.
I was like jaw dropped, just like, because I was spent. I was like, I came, the person I was just fucking came, we're just gonna sit here for a minute and like calm down. And then there was like this crazy co-squirting thing happening over there. I was like, oh, so we get a dinner and a show.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. No, but it was so fun. And I loved the fact that, I mean, it was sort of in honor of Girlsway's 10th anniversary in October. And then, throughout the course of this year, we're going to be doing some special projects to really like highlight the anniversary. And all of you are associated with the brand, but from kind of all different eras. So we've got, some OGs. Obviously, you've been with Girlsway for a long time. People like Serene and Casey have been with Girlsway for a long time. And then some newer faces who have been like, gaining popularity with that brand over the last couple of years. So it was like a real nice like mix of all-stars from like, from the entire trajectory of the brand. And and just, you're all cool people. So I kind of was like fingers crossed that everybody would get along.
It worked,
but it was
out
nice.
Great. Yeah. And it's like, it's just, like I said, a different animal. Like when the camera, like when the scene starts and we just get into it, we were all having fun throughout the day. But once the sex scene starts, it's just like, the inhibitions are gone. Like we just were all like attacking each other.
It was wild.
It was very animalistic and fitting because we were the cats.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and it was a sex battle, which are like my favorite kinds of scenes.
And it felt very like battle-esque.
Yeah.
It wasn't demure in any way.
No.
It was very intense.
All right. So my last question for you before we end with some cutesy mindful, demure, rapid fire questions.
I love those terms. I'm happy they're gaining popularity in mainstream.
So you mentioned something earlier, which I think is really important, and I want you to elaborate on a little bit if you can. You obviously built up like Jane Wilde as a persona and as a brand has, you're known for being kind of an anal queen. You're known for those like big, high energy, like hardcore sex scenes. What's the weight of that persona? And like, how have you rectified over the years, like the difference between, Jane Wilde, the persona, and who you are as a real person? How do you kind of manage the balance, the work-life balance in that respect?
Well, I think in the past I was very excited about having that kind of persona because that's always what I looked up to. And I like all the, the top porn stars in the past always were that. They were super into anal, extremely talented, explosive scenes. So I was like very honored to be considered of that caliber. But then also once I started getting, I've always done great lesbian scenes as well. For a while, I've been able to do a lot of great acting and features. So to have that duality kind of like, it made me feel more well-rounded as opposed to just only being known for anal scenes and only getting booked for anal. I think at a certain point that kind of would have been tiring. I would have been like, I want to like try other stuff and do other stuff. I think I would have been burnt out a lot sooner if I was only allowed to do one certain type of scene. But the versatility has kept me going as long as I have because it just makes it way more fun. But yeah, in my personal life, I'm definitely like more normal or whatever you want to call it. And I try to keep that separation. I used to not care. And I was just like, no, that is me. Like, that's who I really am. And now I'm like, no, I definitely turn it up a lot because it's a performance, entertainment, and that's what I do. Sorry if that disappoints anyone, but you need to know the truth. And the truth is that I love to have sex, but it's not always about doing the craziest scene or the craziest sex act or the most impressive, weirdest thing you can do. It's a lot of the time just about the eroticism.
Yeah.
So yeah, I used to care more about just like being crazy all the time, and now I'm more just like, again, like, am I really enjoying myself doing this? That kind of stuff like that. My values have changed, but I'm still always going to be the crazy anal girl because it just comes very naturally to me. It always has. For my very first anal scene, when Mick Blue put it in, I was like, oh, this is really easy. This feels great. So then it just kind of went from there. And I wouldn't have done so many anal scenes and DPs if I didn't enjoy them and really it wasn't easy for me.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, I think part of like getting to that point in one's like own life experience and maturity, like you said, where we don't have to be like hunting for like always doing the next thing. There's also like a point where you realize that you can't lose yourself.
Yeah.
There's a person behind the persona.
Yes.
And you can't lose yourself in the persona. And like, so I'm actually super grateful that, I know you as the person behind the persona, because I think that's ultimately what's going to make the persona continue to be amazing. Is like that there's this like actual human being behind it that's not afraid to show like that you are real and authentic.
Yes, exactly. And also just like, my persona, it's not completely fake. It's a part of me. And that means that part of me needs to be nurtured and taken care of. And like, so if I need a break, then I will give myself a break and also like give her time to like go into hiding and not be like, you need to be Jane Wilde all the time, whatever that means. Like, because it's hard because I have a real name and I know my real name. All my friends and family know my real name, but you guys don't. So you only know me as Jane. But at the same time, I feel like I do show a lot of my real self, like on social media and when I talk. Like, obviously right now I'm not in a persona or anything. So it's hard to separate because sometimes you're like, what is a name versus who I really am and how do I like reconcile? But I definitely value my authenticity a lot, and I'm going to continue to cherish that. And Jane Wilde, like the crazy persona or whatever, she is going to get tucked away a lot, and then I'm going to bring her out when she's needed, and then she'll do a great job because of the fact that I get to rest and not feel like I have to be that person or be on all the time.
Yeah, 100%. All right. We haven't asked any questions about Scout yet, so
I
we're gonna do
know,
rapid
I
fire.
love my
Okay,
Scout.
wrapping it up with some rapid fire, and Jane Wilde has the cutest dog
thank
of all
you.
time. I
He
mean,
really-
maybe apart from my dog. I just have to say that. I have to say that just to be
corgis.
biased, but Scout was I know it was a big part of your social presence.
Yes.
Was a big part of the Stars production.
Yes.
Has Scout ever interrupted you in the middle of you know what?
Yes, and it's really annoying. So if I know that I'm going to be doing that, I usually will make sure he's not home. But also if he is there, like a lot of the time he's just learned like to fuck off,
Yeah, it's like,
basically, to not
there's
mince words.
Mom.
Yeah, he'll go in the corner, and I'm like, this is my special time. Like you need to go over there and be quiet.
If you're like doing any kind of video content,
I
or
can't.
customers, yeah,
No.
yeah.
Because he's very like he's like a very touchy dog. He needs to be like if he was here right now, he would be here. He needs to be touching my leg or my foot. Like he has to be on me. He can't like be comfortable over there. He'd be crying.
Yeah,
so
no. And that does not work for film.
no, for customs and videos, no. It doesn't.
So, should more girls rock the bush, Jane Wilde?
I think more girls should do what they like. PC answer. But in my opinion, I think bush looks awesome and it is very natural. It's like the most natural state of how we are. So I think yes, in my biased opinion, yes.
As one who has rocked an amazing bush
for years. Thank you.
Alrighty. Is squirting real?
I think it's real. I personally haven't done it like spontaneously, but I've been made to squirt. But also I think that the insistence on separating pee and squirt is like so stupid because they're clearly very intertwined in some magical way, and we might not know exactly how, but to act like they're completely separate things is just a little bit naive, in my opinion.
I think it may even be more for like for distribution reasons.
Yeah, we need to be like, that's
medical
oh my god, you
reasons.
squirted.
Yes, exactly. Now we can put this out on DVD in certain locations.
We all know what it is.
This is something that I guess what is the biggest dick you've ever taken, Jane Wilde?
Probably DREDD. I think every girl that's been with DREDD would say that because there's guys that are thicker, but I don't know anyone that's longer and as thick. So it's just very overwhelmingly big.
It all goes over my head, but I do understand that he tends to be the default answer for that question. He's like his own category.
He's I'm sure there's people in the world that are as big as him or even maybe bigger, but they're not in the porn industry.
Yeah.
And he's our star, and I've done anal with him. I think I can only do anal with him.
I
But
hear
even
he's
that
like a
is-
super nice guy.
He's
Yeah.
super nice. But he fucks really hard. Like, not only does he have a huge dick, but he knows how to use it. So I think that's why he's so popular, is because it's not just like a floppy big dick that doesn't work. It's like he uses that thing.
What is okay, here's a would you rather. Would you rather I think I know this answer, but would you rather be DP'd every day for a year?
Oh God.
Or change your stage name?
I would change my stage name today.
Yes, right now.
If I had to. Getting DP'd every day for a year, I don't even want to know what that would do to a body.
No.
Like after one DP, I'm so spent and I need at least a couple days to like recuperate. So every day, I think after a month, I would go numb.
Yeah, it sort of sounds like that would be like a
It's a medical hazard.
a medical
yeah.
situation. Yeah.
That's insane.
I'm just reading these questions, Jane. I did not prepare.
I will
them.
say, like, what kind of DP is it? Like just a minute long? Or they can
Okay.
go really shallow,
Yeah.
or is it like a full crazy DP scene every time?
Let's just say that I'm saying you shouldn't do a DP every day. So I'm making the decision.
Yeah.
I'm coming in
Yeah.
and I'm saying it is. I think this is on your boundary checklist that
Yeah,
like,
I
you
don't
should
think
not
it's
do a DP every
safe.
day.
Thank you. Thanks for looking out.
Thanks for looking at it. So okay, my last question is actually not a question. It is a fun statistic.
Oh, great.
To end today. And that is like outside of maybe one other performer, like a couple of male performers, do you know that you have shot the most Pure Taboo episodes? You have shot a total of 16
Really?
to the date of this interview.
That is so awesome and exciting, because I remember when I had shot 0 and I was watching them with my friend, when we lived in the model house, when I like my first few months in porn, and I was like, this is so fucked up and weird and cool, and I want to do this. And then I think my first pure taboo scene was something like a brother's love or something
sounds about right.
Really weird with Zach Wilde.
Something we wouldn't be able to produce today. Yeah.
And I'm so, some of them are really like some of the best scenes I've done, and people still like, sometimes I go on the website and I look back at my old scenes and people will be like, they'll be like, this is the best porn I've ever watched.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me right now?
No, we made some good ones, and you made 16 of them.
16's crazy. Let's
make some more.
Make it 20 by this time next year.
Okay, there you go. that is going to be.
Ready.
You heard it here, folks.
I'll always
20
do
by
pure
the
taboo,
end.
no matter how weird it is, because it's like it's a enjoyable type of weird. It's consensual and it's fun and it's pushing the boundary and it's different, which is good for me.
Well, I love to hear that because I've already got ideas in mind. So there you go. All right, everybody. Well, we can talk for hours.
I know.
We
fun.
How
probably
long was this? This is up there.
Yeah.
We hit past the hour, so that's bonus for all of you.
I love that.
That are watching. Thank you, Jane. I always appreciate you, and I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you for having me. This was so fun. I'm excited for everyone to see this conversation.
Me too. All right, everybody, and Timmy's dance, and we're out.
He's excited.
Woohoo! All right, guys.
Yay.
Thank you so much.
Oh my God, that was great. Thank you, Bree.